Hello and welcome to the Power Your Advice podcast. The Power Your Advice podcast is designed to bring financial advisors new ideas, why those ideas should be considered, and how to implement them into your business. This podcast is brought to you by Advisorpedia, the best place for advisors to grow their minds and businesses. And now, please join your host, Doug Heikkinen.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. We are live at the FSI OneVoice conference in Dallas. And sometimes what happens behind the scenes of the industry is really interesting and important to advisors, wealth managers, TAMPs, and what have you. So today we've asked Tom Huddleston, the Chief Information Officer and Managing Director of Redi2 Technologies, to join us and talk about billing, which is really going to be interesting, and I'm excited to do this with him. Welcome, Tom.
Well, thank you, Doug, and I'm happy you feel that way about billing, that it's an eventful part of your life.
Well, it's really important so people get paid what they are doing the work for.
It is, absolutely. It's not the most glamorous part of the industry, but it is one of those things that's very important, and people often overlook it. People think that it's, what's the real thing here? It's taking an asset value, multiplying it by a rate, and getting a fee. What's the science in this? But there's a lot of complexity to it. When you think about this, it's really what happens if you have a new account that incepts in mid-period, and you have to calculate the inception. That's not a straight calculation. You have to understand the number of days it was actually active within a period, and you need to figure out what that fee looks like. A termination. Now you've got to pay someone out. You've got to calculate what's really due on this, and there's a lot of different ways to do that.
Yeah, now we're getting into math, which you seem to be incredibly proficient in. So let's go back to a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Of where you came from and how you got to Redi2.
Sure. No, thank you. I've been in the industry in wealth management for over 20 years. I worked at a large firm doing overlay management. I was more on the trading and model allocation side, really the complexities on that side that really demand kind of very quick decisions and to have something very responsive. And so when I moved over to Redi2, I almost felt kind of an exhale that, here's a part of the industry that is really maybe not as complex. But I was really humbled very quickly because there's a lot of complexity to billing. There's a lot of nuance to it. And it's one of those places where there can be a lot of revenue loss if you're not doing it carefully and really covering all your bases. So that's something that I learned very quickly. That's an important part of the industry, and I've been able to do this now for the last 5+ years.
So tell me a little bit about Redi2 Technologies. Where are you located? What do you exactly do? How long they've been doing it?
Sure. So Redi2 has been in existence for over 20 years. We started really focused on the institutional billing on the asset-based side. Our flagship product, Revenue Manager, has been in the industry since we started and is doing very well. The Wealth Manager product, which is what I run, started about 12 years ago with a major custodian, and really it was a situation where they needed to solve how to bill for wealth management, how to bill for sleeves. And we originally looked at trying to use our Revenue Manager product, and one of our founders realized very quickly that this wasn't going to work, and so he architected a system that built on sleeves that could calculate the proper fees for wealth managers, and it's been successful. That client is still with us and is doing very well with the product. About 6 years ago, we made the decision that we wanted to take that product and move it into the enterprise area where we could attract other clients. And since then, we've continued to bring on more and more clients using our software. And it's really because of this architecture that we have for working with sleeves, we're able to calculate the fees accurately and give the detail that's needed. It's important because there are other products in the industry that can look at how you calculate all these different facets of billing and down to the paying managers at a sleeve level, but they really are looking primarily at allocations of a model, and so it doesn't represent truly what's at the sleeve. They're taking a kind of a snapshot. Here's the account. Here's the percentage of that account that's in this sleeve, and we'll pay that amount. But if a manager overperforms, and increases their share, they should be compensated for it. In that model, they're really not. In fact, you're somewhat rewarding managers who maybe aren't performing as well, and you're penalizing managers who are performing well. And that's not a really great way to do business, because you end up in a situation where managers recognize that and say, well, wait a minute, we need to be compensated correctly. So that's why, for us, it's really important that there's a certain fidelity to the calculations that we have, so that we're accurately supplying our clients with the correct fees that they can pass it on to their client.
So your clients are not really the financial advisors themselves. It's TAMPs, broker-dealers, custodians, and you do an enormous amount of calculations.
That's correct. That's correct. In fact, our largest client is doing over 2 million accounts per day that we're running through. So that's either their periodic billing that's running quarterly, or any of the daily calculations, inceptions, terminations, reassignments, deposits, withdrawals, that type of thing.
So billing itself, talk to me about the basics of billing.
So the basics of billing, if you really break it down, it's a matter of determining a billable market value, which is your fee basis. And that can be something, in some cases, systems will just say, okay, I'm going to take all the assets that are in this sleeve or in this account, and I'm going to calculate. We do it a little differently. We will look at that and allow our clients to exclude certain assets. So if you have something that is held away, that was maybe not managed, and you want to calculate for maybe a platform fee because you want to calculate for everything on the system, but you don't want to calculate as a managed asset. So you can exclude that from that calculation that calculates that fee basis. And then once you get a fee basis, you then apply the rate to it, and you calculate a fee.
So let's dive into, so tell me what a sleeve is. You mentioned that a lot.
Sure. No, happy to do that. So if you think about breaking out a book of business and talking about the different levels. So a book of business is really, an advisor firm has a book of business. So it's all the assets under the firm. And then you can take that down a level to say, okay, I may have a household. And a household is a group of accounts that have some association with each other. It could be truly a household. It could be family accounts together. But it has some way that you want to aggregate those assets together to be able to calculate a more advantageous rate for those accounts. And then under an account is a sleeve. And a sleeve really separates the different types of investment strategies within a particular account. So you can, in this case, you can say, I'm going to have a fixed income sleeve. I'm going to have an equity sleeve. I could have, REITs. I could put that into a sleeve. And each one of those has a different strategy in terms of how they're investing that money. But together, they're all under one contract, all under one account.
How many people in the industry are doing what you guys do?
I think there are people in the industry that try to address this, but no one addresses it as Redi2 does. And that's really the kind of key to distinction for us, is that we are really addressing the key to us is that we're really addressing the true value of each individual parts of this, so that we are calculating the assets in that particular sleeve for that particular manager on a given day. And that's the most accurate way of doing this. And if our clients want to get to that point of accuracy, we can go there with them.
So what else separates you from your competitors at Redi2?
The other aspects that are differentiators for us is, I think that what we do in terms of how we work with multiple fees. We have a concept called a payment model. And a payment model really is an association of several different fees together for a particular set of accounts. And what allows us to do is each one of those fees has an individual fee schedule that's associated with it. And the real advantage of this is really more on the managing of these accounts as you go through different fee changes. So let's say you have a platform fee that is going to change, and it's going to be ticked up a couple bips or whatever. We can do that in one place in our system, and it trickles down and cascades into all of the payment models and for all of our accounts. some of our competitors, because they don't bundle those payment models together in the way we do it with the individual fee schedules, they have to go into every single fee schedule and do this. So it's a huge change in terms of how you operate this. And the reason I know a lot about this, and the reason I know the pain of this, is that in my previous job, I had to manage and work through and manage the technology for different billing systems. And so when I came to Redi2, I knew this was a big stumbling block for people. So I was very impressed with what was already in existence, and we've really spent the last 5 years improving what we do and trying to create the best billing system out there on the managed account side.
So if I'm a financial advisor, should I be going to my TAMP BD custodian saying, how are you calculating my fees?
I think it's a legitimate question, and I think that advisors are really asking for more visibility around this. And I'm glad you asked the question, because Redi2 in 2021 rolled out what is really our advisory portal, which we call WMX or WM Explorer. And it's a portal that is an add-on to our wealth manager billing system that allows advisors to view their current and historical billing details. They can go through it and drill down into particular accounts and look at particular fees. It also allows them to load manual fees that may be associated with the accounts. It also, in some cases, can allow advisors to review fees that are calculated and approve them before they're released to the custodian, so that it puts a lot of the ownership back to the advisors in terms of, being able to review and determine how their fees are processed.
So is there an education component of this new product that trains the advisor of what to look for to be more mindful of their fees being processed correctly? Because it's so complex.
Yeah.
I mean, how are they supposed to know?
Yeah. So I think that the education part of this is really being able to see the details.
Yeah.
And I think that when something's just a couple lines in a report, advisors may not know the questions to ask. When they see the details and they can drill down to it and say, have that aha moment, it's like, oh, now I get how this worked. Or wait a minute, I'm not really quite sure about that. They may come back to the TAMP and ask a question, but it's an educated question, and everyone's on the same page and they can walk through it. It's a way that advisors can feel more comfortable with the fees that are being calculated on their behalf. And it gives them a really great advantage when they're talking to their clients and explaining the fees. They sound much more knowledgeable, and they build credibility with their own clients.
So it's a great trickle-down product from what you guys do to the TAMP, to the advisor, to the client.
That's correct.
Great. Tom, thanks so much for being with us today and talking about fees. I know it's something that we don't talk about, but incredibly important for advisors to learn.
I appreciate it, Doug. Thank you.
How do people get in contact with you?
They can look at our website, which is redi2.com, or they can reach out to us. We have a 800 sales line.
Great. Please follow us for all the latest updates on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, all at Advisorpedia. For everyone at Advisorpedia, our partners, Flyer Financial Technologies, integrated partners, our producer, Jakey Beard, and the Power Your Advice podcast team, this is Doug Heikkinen.